So here's a demonstration of doing a Pickoff rescue. So I've descended down to the casualty. The first thing I'll do is I'll clip one of my lanyards across to their ventral attachment point, and I'll leave that long. Now I'm just clearing their foot stirrup off their handled ascender, and the lanyard that was going to the handled ascender I'm going to attach to the bottom of the carabiner that's attaching to my descender, or my descent device, in this case my ID. Just making sure that I've got clear lines of rope to the ground, and I'm just moving that handled ascender up a little bit higher, come down to where I can reach his hardware comfortably. Now the first thing I'm going to do is put the rope on their descender below their chest ascender. This might seem like an unnecessary step, but if we've got a lot of stretch in the system, whatever pick-off technique we use, we might find that if we get the rope out of their chest ascender and then lower them down, there's a lot of stretch above there to be absorbed in the system before they weight our rescue system. Now I've just put a Petzl roll clip onto the top of the handled ascender here, and then I'm going to install a Grion onto my ventral attachment point, up through that roll clip carabiner, and then down to the sternal point on their harness. It's important to choose the sternal point because as I lift, it's going to sit the patient upright. If I put that on the ventral, then they tend to tip back. So putting it on the sternal gives me the most lift. I take the rope in nice and tight, and I want to check that I've got a good bit of clearance from the top of that plastic keeper on the Grion lanyard to that pulley before I do anything next. Now I've just let some slack rope into my descender. And what that allows me to do now is get my knees underneath the patient, or from either position, preferably underneath. And then just by pushing up with my knees, because I've got this counterbalance nice and tight, I should just be able to lift them up. So I've gone down, they've gone up. If they're a little bit heavier than me, then I might have just had to lift the difference in our weights. I'll just move that rope out of the way. Hopefully we can see better. Okay, now I've taken the blue rope out of their chest ascender, and the lanyard that went, or the cow's tail that went from their ventral attachment to the carabiner on my descender, I've just clipped into their chest ascender. Before I unweight my counterbalance, I'm just taking the rope through their descender. I'll just lift myself up and then down a little bit, taking the rope through my descender. These are fine details that just make it easier to recover all of my counterbalance system. I'll now lower on the Grion to introduce some space between us. Again, I'll just make another check to make sure that I've got clear lines of ropes to the ground as I'm pulling apart my counterbalance system. Note, all I've done at the moment is just taken them off their ascent system and put them onto their descender. The next part of the rescue is a simple rescue off descent. Recover the last bit of my counterbalance. And the final thing, after I've checked that all the ropes are clear, is I'm just going to zip that cow's tail through their chest ascender to make it nice and short. Now when I lower them on their descender, it leaves them comfortably in reach so that I can get the rope out of their descender. If I hadn't shortened that cow's tail up, then at this point here I would have lowered them down and I'd be really struggling to get the rope out of this descender. Okay, I've left their ASAP on. It's running freely. During rescue training, if there's a good ASAP, a good backup device on in place, you might as well leave it on. Now I've set the extra friction carabiner for the two-person descent, and then I'll descend to the ground with the patient. If I had set them up to the back of this carabiner, then I can get out of that system pretty comfortably while they're on the ground there as well.